Okay, welcome everybody. This is the infrastructure group conversation for February 1st, 2023. I see a whole bunch of folks have joined us. I do not see a whole bunch of questions in the agenda. So I'll throw it out there right now and see if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask. See lots of numbers popping up, so maybe we'll get some in a minute. Okay, I see one there. The first one typed asking about top priorities for the quarter. I could speak to that a little bit for the reliability team within infrastructure. I don't know if we have folks from the other teams here, but I can certainly speak to some of our priorities for this quarter within reliability. We have a slide, if you look there, that talks about our transitioning from standing rotational squads to permanent teams. There's a bunch of reasons to do this. We're looking to establish very clear ownership and sort of long-term membership within these teams, which we believe will lead to various service improvements. So getting that rolled out and started and going is happening this quarter. It actually happened today. I think we made the official announcement to do that. And then within those teams, there are various OKRs that are sort of specific to the particular teams. I'm trying to think. So, within the general team, where I am fairly well involved, we have a couple of larger projects that we need to accomplish, moving services from an older cluster to a newer cluster, up-to-date cluster. So that's one of the things that we have. I don't know. I see Dave. I don't know if Annalise is on the call. Want to highlight any of the other team priorities for the quarter?
Sure. I can speak to observability really quick for the team that I'm now taking on. We're going to be focusing primarily on stability in both Thanatos and the logging cluster, so that you've got dashboards loading okay, and people, when they go to look in Kibana, are seeing logs in a timely manner. So it's really just going to be focusing on whatever stability areas we can work there.
Cool. And then I see typing, Alan. If you want to verbalize.
Yeah, sorry. So obviously the team transitions that you talked about and moving those forward, but also just keeping the general availability of .com in the good place we've managed to get it over the last few months, and some sub activities that go with that, as well as remediating a bunch of stuff from the recent pen tests as well. And then finally, I think we're doing a bunch of stuff in the DR space to try and focus on RTOs as well.
Cool. Okay. I see a question from Vladimir. What is the long-term plan in regards to infrastructure changes, refactoring?
Yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't finished my writing, but I just can verbalize it. Well, I recently figured out that we have like a very brilliant plan for implementing pods and data segregation and infrastructure segregation, adding like multiple regions and et cetera, et cetera. So I would believe that, now we definitely pod team is working on segregating the data, but in terms of the infrastructure, it's definitely gonna lead to a lot of refactoring and making Kubernetes clusters treated as a pets or treated as a cattle, and et cetera, et cetera. What is the long-term plan? Because I see a lot of activity in terms of data segregation, but it's still not clear what is the plan for the infrastructure in order to support this pod idea.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the refactoring, which is a big thing for us, right? I mean, going from having just one database to having many databases, right, is something that we have to account for within our tooling, within the services that we run. So I think that's going to happen within the specialized teams that we have for the various services that those teams are responsible for. And certainly pods is well on our radar. We are participating pretty closely with the discussions that are happening around that. In terms of what the specific plans are, I mean, there's different examples that I can give you. I mean, the change management, right, is one area that we're going to have to, spend a lot of time getting our ducks in a row and making sure that can support this idea of pods, right, and multiple things in different places, and cattle versus pets, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that's sort of answers your question there, if you're looking for more detail.
I just mean that introducing the pod is kind of gonna change a lot from my point of view, and it's gonna change a lot. The main change is not only within it's kind of similar for importance, right? It's it brings a lot of change to the application side and the data persistency, but it's also bring a lot of changes to infrastructure. And if we're planning to kind of introduce pods in a year, maybe we should start thinking more deeply in the infrastructure part of the house.
So, Vladimir, you have a good point there. In order for us to be able to think about how do we actually want to support the stage groups work on this, the stage groups also have to have a general idea in which direction they want to go with this. Right now, there's a lot of discussions that have been going on, and there are certain moves that have been made on that side. However, it has not been crystallized which direction they're going to take or how much time that is going to also take. I think some of the latest discussions I've heard of as recent as, I think, yesterday or day before that, is that they have not fully agreed on exactly which part of the application they're going to tackle first, and they're focusing on namespaces, groups, and general organizations. Once we get a general outline of how that might look like, we'll be able to know how we can support them, because everywhere they kind of touch a data set they need to isolate will trigger a completely different set of things we need to do to support them. So I think, to be very direct here, the answer is we don't know 100% how the long term is going to look like, because the long term is currently being developed by the team that is solely responsible to think about how the application would function as an application rather than as a whole infrastructure slash product that we need to support. So it's work in progress, I think, is the best way to summarize this.
Yeah, that's definitely a good summary, Marin. I will note, this is definitely, like Vladimir, this is kind of rightfully placed to have concern about how we move forward with this, because in considering the vision for pods, a couple of years out, if that vision was to come to be, pods in many ways represents what will be the production environment in the future, and through some expansion, as well as like refining how we migrate projects and groups and everything, and a lot of tooling that probably doesn't exist well, I know actually doesn't exist. I shouldn't say probably, like tooling that doesn't exist right now will have to be built and refined to allow us to go there. But also it brings a lot of opportunities for what we're presenting to our customers in the manner in which they want to consume our SaaS offering, like customers that want, data sovereignty within within a given country, customers that want to have different groups operating in different regions, and also for our own scalability, to change this paradigm of us just having one kind of unit of production, if you will, to scale vertically, to be able to still do that, but then also have multiple implementations of that to allow for an overall horizontal scaling at the overall instance level too. So there's a lot to be done. There's actually, coincidentally, there's a pods check-in meeting just after the group conversation. I did put a link to the agenda in there for anyone that's interested. Also, if you're listening and this is an internal thing only, I'll mention for the public stream. If you're interested in in knowing more about what is being looked at by the team so far as POC stuff and everything, there's a deck with, I don't know, I think there's 100 slides in there or more at this point, but it's been getting developed over time that can give you a lot more of an insight into what the vision is for it. And this is something that, at least so far, we're looking at is substantial enough for infrastructure that we would want to start kind of a whole team just focused on it. And right now, kind of, I guess, like penciling that in for the second half of the year, as much as like our plan is solidified for the second half of the year, which is, I would say, not all that solid at this point. So, so it's a great thing for us to have an intentional approach to, and we'll need to for it to be a success. So, but right now it's mainly kind of proof of concepts and everything by the primary pods team. And Jerry, you had some comments.
Yeah, mostly echoing the same things you just mentioned. We still need to make the application work in this architecture. So yes, we know that there are a number of concerns that we will need to address in terms of how we manage the stack, in terms of how we think about it, in terms of how we monitor it. The organization will have to change accordingly. But these are concerns. We could start thinking about them right now, but there are other higher priority items that we need to address. So we're letting development move ahead, and then we'll eventually sort of state how we approach these changes in infrastructure. But they're definitely in the radar.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. That was a great question and a good opportunity to provide some awareness to an important project that we have coming up in the next really year or two, because it will be a big effort depending on how we move forward. So I guess I've got number 3 in the agenda. I just wanted to note it just happens to be February 1st. So it means we have kind of fresh off the press availability numbers for January. Those are in the deck there. The result for January was 99.8. So did not meet our goal. There is further information available, and I do encourage everyone to take a look at the review issue that I've included in the agenda there. Each month, at least if we don't meet the goal, we definitely do a review issue each month, but pretty much each month for the past 6 months or so, and very much thanks to Jarv. He's primarily been driving this. We take a look back and figure out, like, okay, whatever the availability result was, like, how did we land there, and also like what we can learn from that. So please do take a look at that issue if you've got a minute. There's good information in there about the relatively significant change in experience that we had last month from the number of incidents, the number of pages out to the EOC dramatically increased last month. And so we'll want to continue to keep an eye on that every month as we go forward.
Okay, that's the end of the questions. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining. We've got a nice crowd today. Really appreciate it. Hope everybody has a good rest of your week. Take care.